Our contributions in education will be our legacy in this industry.
Whether it's through live education or maybe through social media, we're always trying to make a personal connection with you, the learner.
At Sanvia, we believe our smile is our business card and our personality is our logo. And how we make people feel after you experience our education and tools is our trademark.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us, my friends, and be a part of the Sanvia community.
Oh, sorry. Music's over. Hi, guys. Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sanvia. Welcome to another Wellness Wednesday. Super stoked for this one because I have got Jen and Matt Martinelli from Canvas Me with me tonight. They're a super fun group of people to talk to, so you guys are going to have a blast. Before we get into it, of course, we want to talk about what is coming up because we got lots of education coming up. We've got, of course, Mannequin Monday, Transformation Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday next week. Wellness Wednesday next week, you guys are going to love because guess who my guest is? Sam Villa. Imagine that on his own channel. But Sam has a really cool personal story about how he grew up in his dad's barber shop and how he got into the industry. So I think it's going to be super inspiring to a lot of you. So we've got that coming up, but let's talk about this weekend because this weekend we have on August 30th, we have Show Must Go On. This is our fourth Show Must Go On. This is our attempt to keep education flowing during these challenging times where we're stuck at home. So we've got Anna Peters, our art team member. Jesse Linares is taking a little break this weekend. Don't worry, he's not going anywhere. But you got Sammy with us, you've got me, and we're so stoked because we have Tippy Shorter from Mazzani back in the house. She was with us on our Fabric of Change event, but she just hosted with Sam on that particular event. So we're stoked to have her back to actually be doing some hair with us this time. She's going to show you guys a killer haircutting process, especially for hair that has some curl to it. So please join us this weekend. Free education, free. Did I mention it's free? 4 hours of free education, free. Yeah, this weekend. So make sure you join us. We'll see you then. So I don't want to waste any time because when I first sat down and talked with Jen and Matt, I think we spent like an hour and a half to 2 hours actually just rapping out on the phone because their story is just so incredible. So please put your hands together. Everybody make some noise for our friends, Jen and Matt Martinelli.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Andrew, I just realized we have the same dance moves. When I saw you doing that thing with the arm, like I do the same thing. So we have a good time out. We would. Yeah.
By yourself. Yeah.
By ourselves.
Exactly. As our wives are hanging in the corner going, we're not with them. We're not with them. So how are you guys today?
We're good. We're excited for this live. Super excited to chat with you today. Every time we talk, I feel like we get off the phone and our energy levels are like magnified. Yeah. So always excited to talk about mindset, talk about our story, and share a little bit about who we are and how we got here.
Yeah,
so
it's a little bit later for us. We're on the East Coast, so it's 7 p.m. So I think for us, it's a little bit new. We're not usually this dialed in this late. So we're excited to kind of end the night on a really good note.
A really positive note.
I hope you don't get all pumped up with that espresso you're drinking and chatting about cool stuff. And then you're going to want to go to bed and you're just going to be like, wait, I can't sleep now.
Don't worry. We'll give you a call later.
We'll just call you. We'll chat till, 1 a.m. It's fine. Yep.
That's awesome. I just want to take a second and say hello to everyone that's joining us. We got Anton Moranovskaya, maybe. Tara, what's up, girl? I'm glad you're with us. As always, Anwara, you're in the house. We got Sandra in the house. Lady Kitty. Wow, that's a cool name. Mary Wilson, what's up?
Oh, yay.
Hi, Mary.
Love her. Hi, Mary.
So stoked. Dana's in the house from Zambia. Thanks for joining us. Hey, if you're watching, type into the chat where you are watching from, because I think one of the most fun things, Jen and Matt, that we get to do after we do the event is we get to look back and wait till you see how many places we touch with these programs. It's super cool.
Yeah, we actually checked out some of your other lives, and it's phenomenal.
People from all over the world. It's kind of incredible. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome to be touching so many different places.
Yeah. I think Monday we counted 22 different countries.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep. All
right. So just to kind of get us started, just so they kind of know who you guys are, we just kind of tell them a little bit about Canvas Me. We'll of course get into the story aspect a little bit, but I just want them to know like who you are a little bit before we get rolling.
Yeah, so without giving away too much of the story, Canvas Me is basically like LinkedIn, but for the beauty space. So
plus kind of meets Match.com, right?
Yes, so it's definitely cooler. So basically an artist or a beauty student can go onto our platform, answer some questions, upload video, sync it with their Instagram, write a little bio, talk about their KPIs, put awards and certifications. They hit publish. Now they have this beautiful digital representation of their work. They can leverage that Canvas portfolio to then apply for opportunities. And it's not just full-time opportunities, it's all career enhancing opportunities. So actually you mentioned Tippy Shorter earlier in this live, and she's actually one of our mentors. So you can create a Canvas Me portfolio today. You can go onto our site and apply to work with Tippy Shorter on a mentorship opportunity.
But the coolest part is, so we allow the artists to do that, but we also allow the businesses to do the same thing. So we're really allowing both the artists and the beauty business to connect on a much deeper level, on a level that's never been done before, with humanization, personality, and culture all wrapped in one.
Right, and it's funny because we talk about the Canvas Me being a portfolio, but these are people's stories. They're their dreams. Yep. They're their digital connection, their digital footprint to land and live out that career opportunity, that the career of their dreams. So really awesome. And we're so excited that we were able to bring the industry something so awesome and human that's going to empower lots of people.
Yeah, definitely filled a huge need within our industry. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, but if you guys haven't seen Canvas Me, please go check it out. Whether you're a new stylist, experienced stylist, when I first looked at it, I thought it was super cool. So definitely check it out. All the links to hang out with Jen and Matt through their social, to their website, all that stuff is in the description of the video. So it's easy to find for you guys. So let's get into the story, because the story is what is super exciting. So how'd you guys meet?
So Matt and I, funny story. I think we probably have different stories on that.
Yes. In my story, she was really pursuing me.
Yeah.
Her story was a little bit different.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, Matt and I grew up in the same town. We went to a rival high school, so we've always kind of known each other. We didn't start dating until a little bit after college. And Matt highly pursued me.
I did.
I turned him down for a couple of years.
You know, we talk about timing is everything. We started to talk a little bit in college, didn't work out. And then about 3 or 4 years later, we were both working in our careers. I was working in New York. She was in New Jersey. And I walked into a bar and saw her, and
that was it.
We've been together ever since.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then what kind of led you guys to start to work together? I actually forget this part of the story, because I know that you guys ended up working together. How did that happen?
Yeah, so Jen had always been working at Millennium Software. She was there for about 15, 16 years.
I ran marketing and education, built the team, strategy. It was a really cool opportunity.
And when we got married, I was actually working as a publicist in New York City in the fashion industry. So it was similar to beauty, but I really fell in love with the beauty industry right away. I think being able to see really intrinsically like what caliber, what kind of the artist is and who they are from a human perspective, and how they give back to one another, and how they take care and help educate.
They wear their emotions on their sleeve.
It was really cool. Like, you know, we hear it all the time, like art, you know, stylists supporting stylists. And I thought, for me, coming from the fashion industry where it's very different and not like that, I was really drawn to the people and the stories, and how everybody really loves to help and support each other. And obviously Millennium did a really good job with that as well. But when I had the opportunity, when we got married, to work there, and I jumped at the opportunity.
So Millennium was looking for a communications and public relations to head up that department. And so he came on board. We worked together for many years. Yep. Actually, I would say us, you know, everyone's like, how do you work with your husband? You know, and it's like, well, it's funny because the 7 years that we worked, you know, I was at Millennium for 13 years, 12, 13 years, but the 7 years that he was there, was one of the most dynamic, best years that we've had at Millennium, you know, together, right? Because like we just play off of each other so nicely, like, you know, his ideas up my ideas, and we just keep going, and we're both excited about similar things. And so, so everybody's like, how do you work together? I'm like, well, I don't know how not to work with him, because even when we had separate careers, we were always like, hey, can you help me with this? Or can you talk to me about this idea? So we're just, I guess, really good at, you know, getting each other excited about what's going on and what we're working on.
And really the secret is I just do whatever she says.
Exactly. And I love that. So it works for
secret.
everybody.
That's awesome.
That's not true.
So what started to happen that you started to figure out that it was time to start to direct attention in a different way?
Yeah.
So being at Millennium, I always knew the number one issue we had phone calls all day, every day. You know, we led with a very thought leader mindset. So like we would teach business owners how to better run their businesses. And so because we were that thought leader mindset, people would come to us all the time with questions. The number one question we could never answer was, how do I find talent? You know, maybe somebody that is my high earner is toxic. Should I get rid of her? What should I do? Or maybe I just had to walk out, right? Like there was all these recruitment and retention questions that we would get all the time. And there was no easy answer. I mean, we had answers, but there was no easy, like, hey, just come on this platform and, you know, browse your local talent and really find the right cultural fit, because you can watch videos, right? So I always knew it was a need. It wasn't until my 13th year working for Millennium, I went to a seminar on how to become a better speaker. And when I got there, I thought it was, you know, how to serve up a presentation, open, middle, close, how to get the call to action, all these things. But when I got there, I realized really quickly that it was how to get down to your core purpose, so that when you stand in front of an audience, you can better resonate, you can be more vulnerable and connect with them. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I called Matt and I said, come get me right now.
True story.
I'm like, this is getting really deep. I'm like, my stomach hurts. I cannot do this. This is not okay.
Was it like, this is not what I signed up for?
Not what I expected. I'm like, it was a weekend. I'm like, my stomach literally like hurt, like a physical body hurt. Because I'm like, I don't know how I can do this. Like, then like, does she want us to stand up and talk about this? Like, it was really scary. And so, but that exercise and that seminar that she took us through literally changed my life, complete trajectory of my life. And so I don't know how much you want me to go into now, or you want me to wait a little bit later, but she had us go through an exercise that literally helped me discover my purpose and led Matt and I to both quit our jobs, move across country with our 2 little kids. We left our house, cars. We had some really difficult decisions, but at the time they didn't seem difficult because we were chasing that purpose. And so the very powerful exercise that we can talk about, but completely changed my life. Just that one little seminar.
Yeah, let's give them kind of like the 10,000 foot view of kind of like the story and like what kind of brought you to today. Then, but I definitely want to go back to, because there's some definite action steps that I think you guys can share with them to implement some of what you guys went through. So yeah, kind of keep taking us through the story.
Yeah. So once I recognized my passion, my purpose, I realized, you know, my purpose is empowerment. And as a child, I felt like I really wasn't empowered. I didn't have a voice. And that comes part with my story. Like my mom had me at 17. I grew up as the youngest of all the kids. I always felt annoying, like I was the annoying little one, right? And so I felt like my purpose as the adult version of me was to give people a voice, because as a child, I felt like I didn't have a voice. And so I popped out of bed one day and I looked at Matt and I said, Matt, my purpose is empowerment. And if my purpose is empowerment, to give people a voice, and we build a tool and the platform that the beauty industry needs, and we give artists and students, you know, cosmetology students, a voice on a massive scale, well, I would have served my purpose. And so we did a lot of mindset stuff, right? Like we went through a detox. I mean, there's so many things we did, you know, dove headfirst into all of this content to completely change and adjust our mindset. But before you know it, Matt and I both looked at each other and we're like, let's do this. We both quit our jobs. We packed everything up. We lived with my mom in a 1-bedroom, slept in 1 bedroom with both of our kids. And we were there for about 1.5 years. And now we are able to say that we are impacting thousands of beauty pros on a massive scale. We're back in our own home. And things are pretty awesome when you can wake up every day and say that you're fulfilling your purpose. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. People are already digging the power and the vibe. So yeah, for sure.
Hi, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
So, I mean, what, I guess, like, for me, the big question is, what prompts you to just go like, okay, yeah, we're going to just basically quit our jobs, move across the country, move into an apartment or move into the bedroom in my mom's house and kind of like start fresh. Like, yeah, how does that happen?
Well, I think for us, it was pretty easy. Like, it came down to one thing, and it was like our happiness, right? We were both feeling unfulfilled in what we were doing. Jen tells a story too. Someone came up to her right before this all happened, was like, "You're so successful," and
I was like, "What are you talking about?"
She's like, "No, I'm not." And like, when she said that out loud, that was a big problem.
I was like, "Wait, why don't I think I'm successful?"
Right.
You know?
And it was because we were feeling very unfulfilled. We weren't really following what our purpose was in this. When we realized through this exercise that wasn't our purpose, right? Even though it was a great company, we were doing great things at Millennium, it wasn't where our focus needed to be to really impact the lives of so many.
And not that it wasn't our purpose, right? Like, my purpose is to give people a voice. And I felt like even there, I was able to lead high-performing, happy teams. I mean, maybe they weren't happy with me all the time, but for the most part, they would always tell me that I made an environment that made them feel safe, right? And that was because of a direct result of my childhood. I was able to identify that. And so while, yes, that was my purpose, is to lead that team and make them feel happy, it wasn't reaching my maximum potential. I was still having these self-sabotaging behaviors that I discovered in that exercise, that I wasn't living up to my full potential. And so once I started to really unlock that piece of me, I was able to step in my power. And, everyone's like, "Oh, why me? Why me?" But why not you? And
honestly, like, I'm a realist, right?
Yeah, Tara says we knew what we needed to do. It's so true. It just clicks.
And she's the dreamer.
I am a dreamer.
When I saw this transformation of her becoming a better mother, a better wife, not that she wasn't fantastic already, but even more so, a better leader at Millennium, like, I was totally drawn in. That's when I jumped in and was like, for me, guys, if you would have saw me 2 years ago, for me to be like, "Yep, we're going to quit our jobs. Yeah. We're going to leave our house. Like we have 2 little kids. We're not going to get a paycheck." Like, it was monumental, the transformation that I saw. And then I got on board. I was like, we need to do this. And, when you have that self-awareness, and when you really dig deep as far as what you're chasing, as far as your purpose, and you start to be present, right? For us, making sure that we were being present every moment of the day allowed us to really make those difficult decisions, because when you're vibing at a level that allows you to be confident in your decisions, you're unstoppable, right? Yeah. And when we knew that we were chasing what we were meant to do, we knew that nothing could stop us from doing that.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I felt like my old story of myself was almost like a victim story of like, well, I didn't have a lot of guidance, or I didn't have a lot of this, or nobody gave me that, right? And it was like, well, my mom had me at 17 and all of these situations, right? But when you start to step into your own power and recognize that you save yourself, you end up saving yourself in the story. Nobody else is going to come and say, "Let me help you. Let me do this," right? And when you start to realize, I started to shift my mindset and just completely detox of all the negativity. So music, TV, I was so committed to detoxing of negative that I wouldn't even listen to like a Taylor Swift song that said like, "You're not good enough to do," like any bad lyric, any bad moment, I would literally dismiss it. I would picture it as if it was a black cloud filling the room. And so when you do that, guys, I'm not kidding, 6 days later, 6 days, like it wasn't even that many days later, I was a whole new person. I was like singing in the shower. Nothing in my life had changed. Nothing. Yeah. Like my situation was the same. Nothing in my life had changed. But my mindset was a completely new mindset. And I became this unstoppable person. And just by my energetic shift and me standing in my power and actually feeling confident in myself and actually using my story rather than being a victim story, but being a story of empowerment. Well, wow, now I can help other people. Well, now I can do this. Now I can have a voice to make people who feel like they don't have a voice, right? When you can change that story, nothing stops you. And then you go out into the world and you see all these people that are energetically attracted to you. And they're going, "Hey, I like your shirt," right? Like at the grocery store. Or like, "Hey, I work at the salon down the street." I'm like, "Oh, wow, I'm doing a platform for salons that can find talent," right? All of a sudden, the magic just starts to fall into place. And then you never want to feel any other way. Yeah. Now you're like hooked, right? And then when you get around people, they're hooked. And they're like, "What do you have? And why are you so excited? And why is your energy," right? And this is why we're so passionate about bringing this to the beauty space, because we've been in this space for so long. And yes, they need a voice, but also I think they need to understand, what is that purpose? what is that energetic shift that needs to happen in their lives, right? Because that's the magic that happens when you have a client in your chair. That's the feeling that they want when they leave and they're like, God, I just feel so good. Yes, you do have a good haircut, but I just feel so good when I leave your chair, right? And I think these service-based industries, especially the beauty space, needs to really hone in on the power of the energy and the mindset. And that's why Matt and I, we have the platform, which is awesome, but we love coaching and talking about this stuff because it fires us up. We know it'll fire everybody else up.
Yeah, for sure. Let's actually talk to them about the exercise you went through, because I think that there's quite a few people. Give her a thumbs up or a heart or something if you want to hear, how do you find that purpose? Like, what exercise did she go through? Did they go through to find that purpose? Give them a thumbs up, give them a heart, give them something.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. So 3 steps. So she had us go through 3 life-defining moments before the age of 13. And so it's funny because I actually, when I present this as a presentation, I actually have a slide of the 8-year-old version of myself. And it's funny because you start to realize as the adult version of you don't really think about that little girl or that little boy, right? And like how that little 8-year-old version of yourself felt going through life and experiencing all the things that you've experienced, right? And so I started to remember, I grew up, my mom was 17. My dad wasn't in the picture. My immigrant grandparents who didn't speak a word of English raised me. I remember translating like papers, like mail that came in or like being at the store with my grandmother. I'd be her voice, like, oh, tell her this, and so really just being her voice and witnessing her figure out life and not have a voice in America. I also grew up as my 2 aunts grew up like my sisters, because I lived with my grandmother, and my aunt we lived in a 2-family house. So my aunt lived on the other side. She had 2 daughters. And so they were also old. I was the youngest out of 5 kids that were like in this one house. And so I was always the person that would walk into a room and they'd be like, oh, pack up, Jenny's here, right? Because that's what happens when you're the youngest, right? Like the people can't do things that they could do if the youngest is there. So
hey, put all the adult stuff away. Here comes the kid.
Exactly. So, and like, listen, as an adult, you totally get it, right? But as that 8-year-old version of yourself, right? So all these memories start coming back to me, right? And then what they have you do is they have you go through 3 false beliefs that you've carried as a result of those experiences into your adulthood. And it's funny because I'd never thought about this. Here I am, I'm married, I have a house, I have 2 kids, right? Like I have my friends that are like, oh, you're so successful. But I quickly wrote down on my paper, I was abandoned, I'm annoying, and I'm not good enough. And I stared at it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, why did I write that? Right? Like, because you don't even realize at a subconscious level that you're carrying around these things from that 8-year-old version of yourself as a child that has gone through these experiences, that doesn't know how to process these things, right? And now you're this adult version of yourself that's subconsciously living with these thoughts. And I was like, wait, I'm annoying. Oh my God. I don't call my friends a lot. I don't go out of my way to call a lot of people because I feel like, well, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to call. I'll be simple, everyday life things. I'll go to the grocery store. I don't want to ask somebody, can you help me find this thing? Because I don't want to bother anybody, which is the craziest idea. Like my daughter would be like, Mommy, please, can you ask somebody? Because this is taking a really long time, right? Because those things,
I do the same thing. I do it too.
Like it's just so ingrained that you don't even realize that you have these self-sabotaging behaviors. That I'm not good enough. I wrote down I'm not good enough was I don't put myself out there to try really hard things, especially from my career standpoint, because I feared that if I didn't get the job, it would affirm that I'm not good enough.
Yeah,
right.
Even like the abandonment part, like, when we started dating early on, like it wasn't the easiest thing because she tends to like not trust people. Right. And you get it. Right. And it's difficult. And she would maybe keep people back at a certain distance. Right. So I think she didn't realize even then that it was affecting her in that way.
But once I wrote these things down, things in my mind are like, oh my God, that makes sense. And now that makes sense. And now that makes sense. Right. And I started to realize where I was in my life as a result of all of those beliefs that I believed in my head that were not true. Right. And so the whole point of discovering your false beliefs is to understand that they're nothing more than false beliefs. And now you have that level of awareness. And now you can say, no, I'm not annoying. And I worked. And so now I just started working so hard to say, I'm not annoying and I'm going to do this and I'm going to put myself out there. And then I get the result that I want, right? And then I get the person like, oh my God, thank you so much for following up. Oh my God, it's awesome. Like, you're so great, right? And then you start to be like, oh, okay. And you start to realize, right, these things never go away. They're ingrained with you.
Starts to change that belief pattern and programming a bit.
Yeah. So you have to create the habits to change those false beliefs, right? And so the awareness level will help you get there. So then what she had us do, sorry.
Hang on. Before you go further, let's just recap, because that was awesome and a ton of information. So let's just set them back up on what that first step was. So first, they write down 3 things from their childhood, like 3 memorable experiences.
Moments, yes, that you can think of. You're writing them down, thinking about them. So
just
3 life-defining moments.
Why we go back to the age of 13.
Yeah, so they say most of your beliefs and your belief patterns happen before the age of, what age was it?
7.
7, before the age of 7. So a lot of the things that you're believing, like even subconsciously, your parents may have said, well, money doesn't grow on trees, right? And it's true, money does not grow on trees. But if you start growing up with that kind of mindset at a really young age, you start to find it's difficult to achieve and get money. You feel like in your mind, it's really hard to get money. And so you start to create these self-sabotaging behaviors to affirm that it is really hard to get money.
And you think about it too, at a very high level, like think about the people that you're around at 7, teachers, parents, family, friends. Like I'm sure now as an adult, your belief system is way different than theirs were, right? And that's what you're thinking of subconsciously. So that's why it's really important to go back.
So go back to 3 life-defining moments before the age of 13. Write them down, think about them, and then as a result of those 3 life-defining moments, write down 3 false beliefs that you have created as the adult version of yourself. And honestly, don't even give, like I did not even know what I was going to write down. I just had the paper and the pen, and I like all of a sudden it started writing, and I'm like, wait, what is that? Like, I don't think that. And I'm like, do I really think I was abandoned? You know, I mean, my mom was part of my, you know, but like, it's just, you start to realize that that young version of yourself did feel those things, and you're carrying those things with you. So 3 false beliefs as a result of those experiences. And so what's powerful about that too is not only do you start to heal yourself, but you start to recognize, if I have these false beliefs and I don't call people because I feel like I'm annoying, other people have them too. So you start to realize when other people show up in certain ways, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with
kind
your
of helps you be more empathetic to others too.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. And so it changed not only me and my perspective of myself, but it changed how I worked and dealt and managed and led people, because I understood that when they were coming from a place of lack, or when they were coming from a place of insecurity, they were not showing up as the best version of themselves, and they didn't have the awareness level to know that. And so the power of this tool is that now I can help coach them to understand, well, you know, I can react in not a defensive way because I know it's not about me, but I can help coach them to understand that they are good enough, and that's okay, and this is fine, you know, because it gives you a deeper level of understanding. So I know I keep going on like little things, but I'm so excited.
No,
so
that's great.
3 life-defining moments before the age of 13, then 3 false beliefs, and there's another piece, that there's one last piece of the exercise, if everybody's ready for that.
Go for it. We're ready.
Yes.
Give it to us.
Okay.
We're hungry.
So once you have those 3 false beliefs, what she had us do, and this is the most powerful piece for me, is she had us transform those false beliefs into positive attributes about yourself. So I was annoying really became, well, that created the adult version of me that is really in tune and really empathetic and compassionate with other people. I'm watching, I'm listening. It developed this whole skill set in me that is able to really watch and learn people's body language and understand how they're feeling. And if I'm sensing they're feeling uncomfortable, or building a new place where they feel safe, right? And so that really helped me a lot from a leadership perspective, right? So really looking at those false beliefs with a lens of gratitude. Like, thank God I went through those life experiences, because it created this adult version of me. So you're transforming that false belief into a positive attribute. And so it created this adult version of me that as a child maybe felt annoying, but as the adult version of me would stop at nothing but to make people feel like they were in a safe place, because I don't want anybody to feel annoying, right? And so really stepping into the power of that. Well, that's empowerment. That's not like, oh, I'm a victim and I don't, that's like an empowerment story. That I was abandoned, was really, I show up, I give 110% in everything I do, right? What else?
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough was I show up and I give 110% in everything I do, right? And so whether 4 people are watching, 60 people are watching, it doesn't matter. I will give 110% in everything I do. And so really kind of looking at those experiences from a lens of gratitude versus that victimizing story. Like how do you want to share your story?
Well,
right?
it's also too, it's a mindset shift, right? So you're taking something that was a negative attribute in your life, you're making it a positive, and it's changing your perspective, making you more aware, and making you able to identify when you feel that way, which is huge.
Well, it's so funny too, because when I used to think about some of my life, I used to be like, oh, like I didn't live with, like, I didn't have the traditional like upbringing, right? And so, but then when you look at it from an empowerment perspective, that, well, yeah, I was a young girl that had to help my grandmother figure things out. And so there's the adult version of me, I figure things out, right? And so you can really things from a place of empowerment and a place of storytelling where it makes other people feel like, oh, wow, if you did that, I could do that too, right? And so it completely shifted my mind where I started to realize like, oh my God, my purpose is empowerment. Because as a child, I felt like I didn't have a voice and I was annoying and I was all these things. And the adult version of me is doing all things so that people don't feel that way. And it's so true to my core and who I am and who I want to be. And so I hired a life coach, right? Because we all need a mentor in our lives. I hired a wonderful life coach, Jen Groover, who took me from that moment through my detox, definitely the food detox, but the mind detox, everything you're watching, everything you're listening to, fed me this content that just kept me feeling excited about life and unstoppable, to let's build this business, quit everything, and let's just move and surrender to what's happening right now because it's so magical.
Yeah. Matt, did you end up going through the same process, the same kind of questions and everything?
So I didn't do that deep into the questions because I quickly saw, like, when she came back and I started to see the transformation from a mindset perspective, that's when I got really excited. I kind of like dove in. Mm-hmm. I have been kind of going back to that because I'm realizing, going through the mindset exercises and really identifying where my triggers are. I have like some false beliefs around money. I have a very bad relationship with money.
We've been working on it
because of my childhood and upbringing and some certain situations that happened to me as a young child. So money and I are working on this relationship because I know that's so important.
Yeah.
Seeing me, it was really identifying the mindset piece and how powerful your thoughts are in your everyday life, right? So I became obsessed with being aware and present and looking at these signs because I felt like, being such a realist, I needed something to tell me I was going in the right direction. Right. Mm-hmm. I couldn't it was a little bit harder for me just to trust the universe. But as I saw these signs, I took that as a way letting me know I'm going in the right direction. I'm doing the right thing. So I became really aware, really present, and the mindset stuff.
We should talk about your story. Can you tell your story real quick about when you were going to quit your job?
Oh my God. So yeah, we were going back and forth on like, do I really quit my job? Like, Jen was still working at Millennium and I was like, I was in the city at the time and I'm like, do I quit my job? Like, I'm making more money than I ever had in my career. And I'm like, I was going back and forth. It was a Wednesday night. I'll never forget it. I came up from the city. It was like 8:15. I was exhausted. Jen's like, can you go to Whole Foods and get strawberries? And I'm like, okay, I'll go get strawberries. And all I wanted to do was like take a shower and go to bed. The kids wanted strawberries, so I go to Whole Foods. And at the time, I was working so much that I wasn't working out in the gym, so I was doing intermittent fasting.
Which means you don't eat for a certain amount of hours, a lot of hours, and you're starving.
So I go get the strawberries, and I started to really start seeing numbers. So I was seeing 10, 17 everywhere, guys, and it's my birthday.
And that's his birthday. So
I was looking at that as like a sign to like, I'm going in the right direction. I was seeing it on like all different places, right? And I'm about to check out. I see these potato chips. They're my favorite potato chips. I'm like, I need to eat these potato chips. I'm like, I'm going to get them. I've been working hard. I'm like, I put them back. I'm like, what? I'm not doing it. I'm doing fasting. I'm going to do it. I changed my mind. I grabbed the potato chips and the story. I go to pay and it comes to $10.17.
Oh, crap.
And I'm like, holy shit.
I mean, a lot happened before that too, but yeah, but that's.
And I was like, holy shit, I'm quitting my job. I walk in the house. I'm quitting my job.
I thought he was kidding. I'm like,
Friday.
No, you're not.
So literally 2 days later, I walk into my office in the city and I get them and I'm like, I'm quitting. And they're like, what? Literally out of nowhere. Okay. And
no, we had already talked to my mom. We knew we would move in there. We had a plan, right? You don't just, we had a plan.
But then I walk out and I'm like, holy shit, I just quit my job. Right? Like, done. So then I'm like, panic is setting in for a second. I'm like, I'm sweating. It's like 12:30 in the afternoon. I just get off the subway. I'm walking down the subway to go to Port Authority. And it's just me alone in this giant subway station. And at the end of the subway station, there was a homeless man sitting on the floor. And I'm getting closer and closer and I'm like freaking out. And as I get closer to him, he stands up and he says, I was blind, but now I see. And for me, ever since that moment,
that's crazy.
I've just completely trusted everything we've done, every decision. And we rented our house after that,
3 days,
4 days later. It literally took 4 days to rent our house out.
Yes.
And so
all the pieces started to come into alignment.
So you took a person like me who never believed in that stuff, who was just really focused on being real and just trying to do what I thought was right. I was being taught as a child from my father, right? To make a living, to provide for your family. And I completely surrendered to our purpose and
the mindset.
And it's allowed me to really do some amazing things with Jen, to really take risks that I never thought I could take. And to be really excited about the future.
Yeah, I think our whole new mantra became like through Jen Groover, who is our life coach and was at the time. She kept saying that the fear of regret is bigger than the fear itself. So what is the 20-year, the 10-year-old, the 5-year-older version of yourself looking back and saying? Is she saying you should have done that 5 years ago? What is she saying, right? And so when you start to like really get into that mindset, you start to realize like, okay, like if we do this, the worst case scenario stinks. It really does. But it would be worse, more worse, or worser. What is the word? I don't know. If you were looking back on regret, like you can't change that, right? And they say like the number one thing on people's deathbed is what? Is regret, right? Yeah. And so start to like get into the play tricks with your mind and start to really just kind of be in this zone of like, I want to have, you know, and they say like even courage, right? Like courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is willing to walk into something even when you know it's fearful, but doing it anyway, right?
Yes.
So I want to be courageous, right? And you start to just live in this mental space of like, if I just align and if I do these things and if I, you know, surrender and I have all these things in alignment, it'll make sense, right? If I'm living out my purpose, it'll all make sense. And so it just becomes something that you just let go and jump, like you just do it, you know?
Right.
And sometimes you're like, oh shit, I can't believe you jumped, right? Like you have those days, but you also have the tools to reel yourself back in and remember why the magic started, when the magic started, right? You have to be so committed to the mindset, so committed because, you know, they say like 80% of success is mindset. It's not what you know, what school you went to. It's none of that. 80% of success is mindset and emotional intelligence. They've proven that. And so when you start to like really like learn these things, you're like, that's the magic, you know?
Yeah, and something that I learned really quickly too is that life is full of choices, right? We have the choice to do anything, right? Every day you're making decisions, right? So we sat down together and we were aligned on 3 major goals, right? And every single day whatever we were doing that day, we asked ourselves, is this getting us closer to these goals?
Yes. Like is scrolling Instagram right now getting me a step closer to owning my business and fulfilling my purpose?
Yeah.
Is that?
And so that kept us
if
really.
The answer is no, then you stop doing it.
And that kept us really honest and kept us on target. Like we really kept ourselves accountable because, you know, you burn the ships, right? We got rid of everything, right? We have 2 little kids. Like you put yourself in a position where failure is not an option.
It's not an option.
You have to do whatever it takes to
get. You know, everybody's talking about pivoting, right? Like even if it's failure, it's pivot. It's a learning opportunity. It's okay, like what do we do now? And so, you know, just jump in and you do it. And I love that you talk about choices because I think that's like the number one step in mindset, right? Like you choose, like, and it's funny because like I always do this with my kids now because I love teaching them the power of mindset at such a young age. They're 7 and 9, but I say to them every morning, I'm like, guys, you can choose Skittles or you can choose Poopy. Which one do you choose, right? Now my son's a smart ass and he'll say, I choose Poopy, right? But the whole point is you wouldn't choose Poopy over Skittles, just as the same as you wouldn't choose unhappiness over happiness or being mad at something or not being mad, right? Like, and it's so funny because before this, I was really high strung. I would get really frustrated with people, right? But the whole exercise starts the magic of this because if you can realize that you yourself have these false beliefs, you yourself are showing up in a way where you're not calling people enough, and now they're feeling like, well, she doesn't really like me. She doesn't call me that much, but it's really my false belief showing up, right? Yeah. So when you start to really identify those things, heal yourself. Through healing yourself, you start to realize when other people show up and they need healing, you're like, oh my God, you need healing, right? And so rather than being frustrated and mad and annoyed, you're realizing that this is a false belief showing up. And that's honestly what's even great, even our marriage, right? Like you literally show up as the best version of yourself because I can see when I trigger Matt. Like the other day I was doing something with like coaching and I'm like, I have to spend this money. And he like literally like was angry at me, right? Because money's a trigger for him. And so, but before this training, I would have not known that, and it probably would have been a huge blowout. But for me, I was like, okay, he needs time because this is a trigger for him, right? And so it just helps you understand, you know, this is a study of human behavior. It helps you understand humans and how to interact and work with them better, and yourself, and understand yourself better, and live a better life.
I think that's huge, especially right now, because there's so much contention over so many different aspects of our world right now, that if we step back and we take that opportunity to put ourselves back into empathy, where we look at the other person, even if they're so far off from our beliefs, so far off from agreeing with us on something, we have to recognize that their beliefs are based on their upbringing, their experiences, their training. And when we do that, it helps to, it's not approval. It's not like you approve of the fact that they don't agree with you or they have this perception. It's just putting yourself back in a space of understanding that they're just going through the same human experience. And when we do that, then there's something that happens in here, right, Mary? You know, talking about heart math, like there's something that happens in here that all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now I can be open to this person instead of going into fight mode, like you said, and your empathy towards Matt saying, oh yeah, that's right. Be patient, calm down, because this is a trigger for him. He's not trying to get upset. His old, you know, brain back here that runs 85-90% of our operational part of our day just flared up because there's old programming in there. So it just brings us back to such a different heart space to have that empathy. You know, one thing that I do want to make sure that we kind of touch on too, because I think this was huge, and you already mentioned it a bit, was this kind of detox process. Because one of the things I pulled from our conversation that was huge, guys, I mean, just so huge. We always hear this thing, you are what you eat. But it's so much more than that. It's not just eat, it's consume, right? So tell them a little bit about the detox process, and maybe you can give them some tips on how to start to detox for themselves.
So honestly, I committed so much to this that people, right, like with love and kindness, people that want to call you and talk about somebody or something, or just have that negativity. So I started to picture negativity as a black smoke that filled the air. And so even people that called me, I would, with loving grace, I would say, hey, like I got a really busy week, right? Like you don't tell them like, don't call me, I'm detoxing, right? You tell them, hey, you know what? Like I got a really busy week going on, right? Like you're busy, you got stuff. You make yourself and your mindset the number one. You wake up every morning, your mindset is your number one priority. You do nothing else. I mean, you know, you do a regular day, but that is your number one priority. We stopped watching TV, no Netflix, no nothing. We started to just watch YouTube videos on all of these mindset leaders. So Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, anybody we can find. You just start looking up mindset. We watched The Secret over and over, right? Like it's the movie that talks about the law of attraction. And the more you dig in, the more you find. And so anytime we had free time, right, which was not a lot, we worked full-time jobs. We had 2 little kids picking them up from school and doing all the sports. But anytime we'd say, oh, we don't have time for anything. But then we found ourselves sitting in front of the TV at 10 o'clock at night watching Netflix, right? And so we gave no Netflix, no music. We didn't do any music. I had no idea what was like. So somebody asked me, what's your favorite song? And I was like, I have no idea, because I know that sounds.
So no music whatsoever?
Well, we would listen to motivational music, as long as it was like something that was uplifting and empowering, right? If it was anything with lyrics, I was that committed, right? If it was anything with lyrics, because music can be very motivational as long as it's the right song, right? And it has like lyrics. What else did we do? We would go to work every day, right? And you know how every day you have a bad moment. And what's funny is you start to realize when you do this mindset shift is you end up coming home every day, and the first thing you talk about with your significant other or your girlfriend or whoever is all the shitty things that happened to you that day. Like, do you believe this guy said this, and then this one, and this one's like that, and you just keep going, right? And then the other person's like, oh, well, you don't know my office, this one did this. And you just keep thriving on this negative energy. So once I start to visualize this negativity as black smoke, Matt and I would come home from work every day, and I would say, okay, if we have to get something off of our chests, right? Sometimes it's not good to keep it in. We give it 5 minutes of energy. So we would set a clock. We would set a timer for 5 minutes of energy. And we would say, okay, this happened, this is really annoying. Okay, you go. And then, you know, this happened, this is really annoying. Okay, we're done. We're no longer allowed to talk about it. And before you know it, it forced us to talk about the positive things that were happening in that day. It forced us to think about like, oh, I went to work today and I saw this thing, and you know, anything good, or the kids, and it changed our focus completely because we knew we weren't allowed to talk about it. We kept each other honest.
You know what I loved a lot? So we made vision boards as well, right? And which I thought was really important. And we thought about that. And we thought about that every morning we woke up. We thought about nighttime before we went to bed. Because again, you want to wake up and you want to end the day with positivity, right? So we would do that as much as we can. We would keep them around. We would talk about it. We were always running down what we were grateful for. We do that a lot. I think just reminding ourselves of what we're so grateful for, why we're so happy every single day.
Well, you notice when you take out the negative, you notice how much time you have to focus on positive, right? Because like if you're bitching a lot all the time, even about politics, whatever it is, you start to realize like, oh wow, I just spent an hour bitching about politics that I could have been spending. So like the gratitude sharing, definitely give it 5 minutes of life, and keep yourself honest. Don't defer from that 5 minutes.
Well, and that's why the goal setting, guys, is so important too, because you need to be able to move towards something, right? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? What are those things that are going to truly fulfill you? Because that's when you can say, are these things getting me closer to that goal?
Right. Is what I'm doing right now. That's why we ask ourselves that question all the time.
Every day.
And sometimes we keep each other honest. Like I'd see him doing something like, is that bringing you closer to your goal? And he'd be like, oh. You know?
Would you say it just like that?
Yes.
Sometimes, yes. And so it's just, if you keep yourself honest, or you have somebody that's accountability coach or accountability partner, right? That can really help you stay on that path. And before you know it, guys, I mean, I started to realize how good it felt without the negativity that I never wanted to talk. Like if I was like in a group at work or somewhere where people were like, oh, no, I would just, I got to run to the bathroom, right? Because I'm like, oh God, I can't handle that, right? And so at first you can't handle it and you end up exiting the room. But what happens is over time that you're so solid and set in this mindset is that you become the light in the darkness. And that is my favorite part, is like when all these people are like, oh, and this one, you start to show them, well, maybe they had a rough day, or maybe they had rough this, and you start to show them what empathy and compassion looks like in the darkness. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wow, that felt kind of good, right? And so you get to shine your light on those opportunities. And so mindset over everything, keep yourself honest.
But I would definitely recommend as a starter to like, at least at night before you go to bed and when you wake up, you need to start, you have to wake up with positivity. You have to. Even with our kids, like we tell them, like, if they come downstairs and they're cranky, go back up to bed.
Yeah.
Like roll over the side of the bed. Like
you're not allowed to come to breakfast if you're in a bad mood.
Like, yeah, like you need to, like, you can't, it's so, and I get it. Like, listen, we're all
going, you have bad days for sure.
Like, but like, that's why going to bed with a positive mindset, which is why it's, whether it's listening to like meditation, whether it's listening to a cool YouTube video, right? That positivity is going to set you up while you're sleeping. And it does, trust me, it really does. You wake up, you feel good. You're going to look at your vision board. You're going to talk about, look at your list of why you're so grateful before you get out of bed. Those are going to automatically put you in a better mood.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love too, like we talk about like energy in terms of frequencies. Now this gets like a little like, you know, wonkier, right?
Get woo-woo. Let's get woo-woo on it.
But, you know, if you think about energy as frequency, is like, even like I call you on my cell phone and I'm calling you through a certain frequency. Well, if my frequency from an energetic level is here, but my frequency on my goals are here, right? Like I want to be that boss. I want to be that leader. I want to be that coach. I want to own that thing. I want to be that platform artist. But energetically, you're here. Well, you'll never achieve that goal. Right. So like, I always think about it, I'm like, I have high energy goals and I want to stay at the high energy vibe. Right. And so like, if you just keep reminding yourselves of these things, like, where do you want to be? Like, it's your choice.
Speaking of frequency, you know what I love too, and she does this a lot, is listening to those sounds.
Oh, binaural beats. I don't even know how to say it.
So guys, binaural beats, it's phenomenal. So literally it's this music that is designed to make you feel certain
like
ways.
Neurologically change the waves in your brain. Like
so if you're feeling like tired, like for instance, like before I didn't have time to do it, but I was feeling a little tired. Instead of drinking espresso before this, I was going to listen to binaural beats, get me pumped up, right? You could do it before you go to bed. You could do it when you wake up. That's a really cool thing too. It gets you in a good mindset.
Yeah.
I think breath work was kind of a big focus for such a long time. And it still is such an important aspect to it. But I think now most people are on board with the fact that you can access different things within your body by focusing on the breath in different ways. A new thing that definitely seems to be coming to the forefront is sound, and how sound and the frequencies of sounds interact with our body. I was actually first turned on to that by an acupuncturist friend of mine.
Oh yeah.
And he would give me headphones to wear during acupuncture sessions. It was crazy how much more effective the sessions were when we also brought in this vibrational stuff from the CDs. It was super powerful.
Yeah.
There was one thing. Oh crap, I forget now. I shouldn't have said all that stuff because it was such a great question that I had for you guys. Oh, well.
So the mind.
It's slipped.
Yeah, it's okay.
We'll have to do
we can regroup on another Wellness Wednesday and talk about it. We can talk for hours. We can just keep going.
I know. And can you believe we were already eating up 51 minutes of time?
I know. I hope this was valuable. I hope we were able to give everyone tons of tips.
Oh, totally.
And this is her belief about being not good enough.
See? Yeah. Shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware and have the tools to get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So here, the question just came back because this is where I want to head to kind of close things up. How do you carry these things? Because we were kind of talking a lot about this stuff in past tense. Like you did this detox, you did this process. Today, how do you kind of continue to keep the motivation? Because I think that's one of the things that's always a big challenge for people. We get super stoked. We do all these different things. We hire a life coach. We get better. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I don't need to keep paying this life coach. I don't need to keep listening to these things.
It is a full-blown lifestyle. You go to the gym, you get fit, you don't stop working out and stay fit forever, right? And so this is getting fit for your brain, and it's a constant exercise, and you keep leveling up. And so the thing is you can keep listening to the same things, right? That's what this is, and level up every time because you're hearing it differently. You're hearing it with new goals. You're hearing it with new purpose. You're hearing it with a new place or new experience that you're having in your life. And so the whole point of all of this is you get yourself out of the hole with the mindset, and you get yourself out into the world, and you just keep climbing the ladder with it, right? Like it never just like, oh, I'm good because I came here. And you love that quote, which I'm going to let you say because I'm not going to steal it from you. The Mark Bustos quote.
Oh, yeah.
So, you don't come here to be like, oh, I'm good, right? Like you keep climbing that mountain. And so you can say
Mark said it. He said, I didn't get this far just to get this far. Right?
And so, mindset is a lifestyle. But and once you do it, you're hooked.
And you said it quickly, like, have a list of content you guys can go to every single day because Jen's right. Like, even if you watch one piece, right, and then a month or 2 months later you rewatch it again, you're at a different point in your life, right? Things have changed, right? So don't feel like you can't listen to the same content. You're gonna hear it differently. It's gonna alert you to different things. It's gonna make you think about things differently, right? So we rewatch. Listen, we don't
all
stop.
The time.
We meditate every day. We drink celery juice every day. We look at our
mind, body, soul.
We look at our vision board. We listen to binaural beats. Like we're doing these things.
Well, and especially when I have a hard day, because we still have hard days, right? We still have days where we cry. Things are hard, like questionable. Like what is it? There's a lot of days like that, right? But that's when it's the most important to focus on the mindset. That's when I sit in my room and I really dive deep into like all of the people that I look up to, that I listen to on Audible or YouTube stuff, right? That's when I dedicate that entire day to the mindset as much as I can. And then the next day I'm kind of like starting to get out of the rut. Like, right, you just now have the tools to dig yourself out of that hole way faster. So in the past, it might've taken a month for me to get out of that, like, oh, why me? Why is this happening? Now it takes 5 minutes or an hour, or right, depending on the situation. So it just gives you the tools, and you constantly need to be learning and growing those tools forever, right?
I think also what Jen did really well throughout this whole process, and what she's taught me too, is self-love has to be a priority, right? Because if you aren't at your best or your peak self, you can't be that person for anybody else in your life. Self-love, Jen really learned to. Jen was always the pleaser. Right. She tried to please everybody.
Being the mom, being, like I have to go see like my family, I have to go see his family. I have to do this. I was working full time. Right. You start to realize like if you can't show up as the best version of yourself, you're not doing anybody justice. Right. So you're almost better off having that self-love. I used to think that that was selfish, right? It's not selfish.
Yes.
It's taking care of the, your best, self. It's taking care of your future. It's investing in your future. So once you realize that and participate in all these things,
and thanks for bringing that up too, because I think that's so important earlier. And Earl just mentioned he noticed that he's not getting into as many funks, but even if you've done the work, hardcore for 20 years, you're still going to have a bad day. To me, that is so often the big mistake in kind of like the self-help world, is this concept that, well, if you just do this, this, and this, then everything's going to be perfect. You'll never be sick again. You'll fly up and listen to angels every morning. And it's like, no, that's not the truth. I'm sorry. Right. Maybe if you hit Buddhahood, okay, cool. Good for you. Yeah. But the rest of us human beings, we're going to work hard to stay positive and do great things. And we're still going to wake up once in a while in a bad mood. It's going to happen. And, for me, like, I'll be honest, this has been a kind of a frustration for me. But just even this last weekend, it's like, dude, I am working so hard at this right now. Like, I'm doing an hour of yoga, a half an hour of meditation, eating well. I'm like, I am doing the work. And I had a rough weekend, like full on, just like tears at times and just a rough weekend. Yep. And what's so cool is like the universe provides, because all of a sudden all these things started coming up in my Instagram feed. Like, hey, remember, you're human. Yeah. Like this is part of the human process. So I appreciate you guys also bringing up the fact that all of these things are wonderful. You also have to give credit to that you're just going to be here and having a human experience too. Yep. Exactly. Do you guys have any favorite like books or things that you listen to? Christy's asking if we have any suggestions to listen to on Audible, or is there any favorites for you guys?
So I love Gabby Bernstein, The Universe Has Your Back.
It's a great one.
She's really, especially on Audible, she's really easy to listen to. She's like your best friend. So I would start there, because she really kind of takes you through the process and the journey, especially if you're new to mindset. She kind of walks you through like her life experiences and what these things look like. I love Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, although that is a little bit later, like, right? It's like start with Gabby and then like graduate to Think and Grow Rich, Millionaire Mindset. I have a ton after, but Gabby is a great starter. Who else did I start with? Bob Proctor, I love. Guys, if you Google YouTube Bob Proctor, I mean, he's got a ton of books too, but Bob Proctor is pretty great. Wayne Dyer, I love.
And then also you brought up something too about having that rough weekend, because we all have that, right? And I think one thing that Jen taught me really well is you have to talk to yourself as you would the 5-year-old version of yourself, right? And you have to hug that person.
So
right?
having compassion and empathy for yourself,
because we're our own biggest critics. We're gonna have bad days. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna do things that we thought we've done differently, right? But you have to have empathy and compassion for yourself. So I do that a lot. I talk to myself as I would the 5-year-old version of myself.
Yeah, and I think too, like even during meditations, like to heal childhood stuff, I think about hugging that 5-6-year-old version of myself, right? Because you are your own savior. And it's so powerful in a meditation. Also, Jen Groover, she's awesome. She's our life coach. She's written many books. Follow her on Instagram. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice. That's and if you want a fun one for Audible, have you guys ever listened to any Jen Sincero stuff?
Yes, I forgot about her. She's great.
So fun.
Yes, she's so fun.
And her story is amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. And she has a ton of books, and she has the money mindset. I made him listen to that. Yep. It's awesome.
It actually it helped me a lot.
Me too.
Yeah, it helped me a lot.
With you on that one.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I mean, this has just been such a fun hour of time, because the energy was up here. I think we definitely inspired some people with this conversation. And just thank you for being real, but also thank you for bringing something into our industry that was really needed, which is a killer platform for people to show up and for people to show their skills. It's for employers to be able to find the right people for them. I think that's huge.
Yep.
I used to be a salon owner, and that was something that was always so challenging, was where do I go to find this talent if they're not walking through my doors, you know?
Yeah.
And we would go in and we'd teach classes at hair schools and things like this. But man, to have something like Canvas Me that I could go to and actually look at portfolios and stuff, it's huge. It's such an awesome thing for our industry. So thank you for putting that together.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you for having
yeah.
us. And we're so grateful to be part of this journey with this beautiful industry. And we're excited for, you know, what's to come.
Definitely. And I know I can say this on behalf of Sam and our entire team. If there's anything we can do to support you guys, please reach out to us, because we would love to see more people join you guys on your platform.
Thank you. I appreciate
Amazing.
that. Yeah,
Love
likewise. That. If you need anything, come to us.
Yep.
We'll
Cool.
do this soon. This is awesome.
I'm going to pop you guys back into the green room, hang out just for a little bit. After I close up, I'd like to chat with you a little bit, but thank you guys so much. Guys, give them some love. Please give them some thumbs up, some hearts. And yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
I'm not Jen and Matt Martinelli, so let me get that off the screen. So yeah, what a great conversation. Just before we wrap up, I just want to remind you guys, this weekend we have our 4th of The Show Must Go On. This weekend we're going to be talking about lived in precision. I know that those seem like two very opposite words, but let's face it, people want that lived in texture and look right now. But we're going to talk about how do you get there in a very intentional sort of way. We have our good friend Tippy Shorter from Mazzani and Techspert Collective. She's going to be sharing some killer tips on how to create that lived-in precision within curl. So definitely don't want to miss that. We've got Anna Peters, our team member for Zambia, going to be working on some styling for you. And then of course you got those other two ugly guys that are on the screen. Sam and Andrew will of course be there too, cutting some hair. So definitely don't want to miss that one. That starts at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We'll have 4 hours of education for you. And of course, like always, we have next week Mannequin Monday, Transformation Tuesday, and Wellness Wednesday. So please stay tuned for more free education. We want to make sure to keep you guys inspired in this challenging time. Also a very beautiful time for many. So want to give credit to that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Zambia. We will see you this weekend and then into next week for more education. Cheers.